Everybody, I hope you're having a great day. So last week Ubisoft released their first test server patch notes for Rainbow Six Siege for the new year, and it's kind of brought up a question around how Ubisoft tends to sort of balance things, balance operators and certain weapons within Siege. And yeah, we'll have a chat through it and we'll talk about it. So, I want us to use our memory a little bit here. We're gonna go way back to the early days of Siege. You guys will all remember the SMG-11. I mean, you all. Maybe some of you don't. The SMG-11 used to have an Acog back in like Year 1, Season 1. I think it was removed in Season 2 of Year 1. I might be wrong. But it was basically, the SMG-11 used to have an Acog. And there was no reason for it to have an Acog. It was a silly attachment for that gun, right? So what did Ubisoft do? They got rid of it. That makes sense. Then the same thing happened with Bandit and Jaeger. Their MP7 and the 416C. Ubisoft looked at Bandit and Jaeger and went, there's no reason that two of the sort of the best guns, or with them balanced, best guns on defense on 3-speed operators should really have ACOGs. It doesn't really make sense. So what did they do? They took them away, much to everyone's memeage and not likening. That's not a word. Not like they didn't like it. People want the Jaeger ACOG, but it was taken away and it was quite balanced. They didn't need to change the guns because the MP7 and the 416 are reasonably balanced guns. They're good guns, but they're not like broken or overpowered, right? And then we also had the same issue again with Ash and her R4C about a year ago, so maybe a bit longer. The start of Year 4, where the R4C and the way the Ash was being played at that time, with the movement mechanics, the R4C with an ACOG was kind of, it wasn't broken, but it was a very powerful attachment on the R4C. And it also made it so that with the R4C, there was zero reason to use the G36C, Ash's other primary weapon, sorry. And so Ubisoft removed the R4C's ACOG. Again, everyone was kind of split, whether it was, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. But it made both guns more viable, and it brought Ash down to where Ash really should have been, in that a strong fighter in that close quarters combat kind of area. So again, a controversial change, but removing the ACOG was quite a balanced change. Now, come back to present day, and the test server patch notes that have just released last week are seeing Maestro's Alda lose its ACOG. Nothing else. No other changes to, you know, the 35 damage, 81 bullet, very easily controllable recoil, one of the fastest fire rates in the game. Nothing changed about that. Nope. You're just making it so that you can't have an ACOG. No, no, not that. That's not balancing. I'm sorry. It's not. I don't disagree with the ACOG being taken away. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like, that's definitely a potentially good change. I'm interested to try it. But considering the fact that a fair portion of players already don't use the ACOG and use a holographic sight, whether that's because they're on a stretched resolution or not on PC. And obviously, I'm only talking about PC in these talks because that's all I've got experience with. I haven't played console since like Year 1. So, considering a lot of people already use the holographic sight or like with different 1x sights, the ACOG removal really doesn't do that much. And if you look at what Ubisoft actually said in the patch notes, right? They say, we think the Alda is powerful, even without the ACOG, and want to see if its removal will highlight its other great qualities. What, like the great qualities, like the 81 round magazine, one of the fastest fire rates in the game at 900 RPM, the really easily controlled recoil, the decent, I mean, it's not great damage, but 35 damage is the decent damage on it. One of those great qualities? Yeah, I think it will highlight that. I don't think it'll highlight it more than it already does. but it'll certainly highlight it. I mean, you know, it's just not, it's not the way to balance Maestro. If you look at Maestro's kit and utility, you know, with his bailiff pistol, his bailiff like shotgun revolver pistol to make whatever like rotates and holes he wants, his two evil eye cameras, which are very, very powerful pieces of utility, his impact grenades, if you choose to run them. I mean, obviously in some situations the barbed wire is more useful, but he's got impact grenades, so he can impact trick on whatever map he's on whatever site, and he's got one of the best LMGs in the game, or one of the best guns in general in the game. He's one of the best operators in the game, and a lot of that is due to the fact that his gun is just so damn good. I mean, Maestro can single-handedly, as he's at the moment, can single-handedly hold down lines of sight and angles and areas by himself. Take a map like Villa is a great example for this. If you look at the 90 corridor, like the bar 90 corridor, you can put an evil eye camera facing down the short and long hallways next to bar. You can sit with Maestro and his Alda in 90, and Maestro can single-handedly prevent pushes down those corridors by himself. That's not due to the fact that he's got an Acog and he can hold long angles. That's due to the fact that he's got 81 bullets in one of the fastest firing guns in the game. It's like, do you see the issue I'm trying to highlight here? Like, the issue with the Alda is sort of everything else that they didn't change, right? So the moral of the story is, yes, Acog's being taken away can be useful. I completely agree. But not on an 81 bullet 900 rate of fire LMG. you see, you get me? I feel like you get me. Right. So I've actually had a reasonably good chat with some people in the competitive community about these changes to Maestro. And again, I say proposed changes because they are only patches on the test server. So they can be subject to change, and, you know, they might not make it into the live build. They can be reverted or, you know, tweaked. So that's why I say proposed. But unlike Jaeger, Bandit, Ash, etc., the issue isn't with the Acog site. You know, as I said in the start of the video, Ubisoft has a tendency to kind of put a band-aid on these broken mechanics in Siege, as opposed to directly addressing them. I think you can look literally no further than Twitch's F2 nerf earlier this year. You know, one of the fastest firing guns, very easily controllable recoil, decent damage, and an Acog. All, you know, they didn't take the Acog off of the F2, but all they seemed to do was reduce the amount of bullets the F2 has by, what was it, 5 or 6? Down to 25 bullets. The gun's still an absolute machine. It still does there wasn't a fix to the F2 that didn't fix the F2. And in the same way that removing this Acog from the Alda won't fix Maestro and his issues. If anything, it will kind of make Maestro played a little bit more... It'll make him be played a bit more annoyingly, if anything, in my opinion. I think this Acog removal will kind of make Maestro be more of an on-site anchor. But with this 80-round magazine LMG, as I say, he can single-handedly stop attackers pushing through a door into the site, or, you know, cut off a hallway to the site. And that doesn't get stopped by the fact that he has no Acog. You know, Rainbow Six Siege is a game that thrives, in my opinion, on the one-shot headshot mechanic. And the fact of the matter is, the more bullets you can put down range, the faster you can put them down range, the more likelihood there is going to be death. Death and destruction on the other end, right? So even without, you know, even like lower rank players, like silver players, all up to sort of like diamond and champion players, if you can put 80 bullets downrange at 900 RPM, chances are you'll probably kill whoever you're pointing at, right? So whether you've got an ACOG to zoom in close to their face, or whether you've got a 1x sight, it doesn't really change anything. So here's some proposed changes that I think the ALDA could do with. Now, again, I've had quite a few in-depth discussions with some people, and we all seem to be along the same line of thought here. If Ubisoft decided to take the ALDA and give it 50 to 60-ish bullets, you know, because obviously it's still an LMG, they still want to maintain the LMG factor of it, so give it 50 to 60 bullets, and whether they increased the recoil or to something like Buck's C8, I think that would be good. Maybe not necessarily like instantly, because then it might be a bit too unwieldy, but maybe sort of after the first 10 or 15 rounds, you start to get like more increased recoil with the ALDA. I think that would be a lot better change than taking away the ACOG. Now, the reason I don't think they should touch the fire rate is because the fire rate is, you know, the 900 RPM fire rate is kind of a big factor of Maestro's gun. It's, you know, it's kind of what it's known for. It's this super fast firing LMG. And same with the damage. By itself, Maestro's ALDA isn't particularly the strongest hitting gun, and it only does 35 damage. Now, don't get me wrong, at 900 RPM, as I said, 35 damage will shred someone, but only really if you can hit your shots. I don't think it really needs a damage nerf, because then it will kind of feel like a bit of a pea shooter, and you don't, like Doc's P90, and you don't really want that. So if they just sort of increased a bit of the recoil, so you can't just spray it as much as you can currently, and they reduce the magazine size so that you can't literally just sit there for like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, just holding mouse 1 and cutting off a doorway, or a line of sight, whatever. I think it's going to be a lot better change than just simply removing the ACOG. I think that will bring him a lot more in line with a current, like, balanced meta. You know, again, don't get me wrong, as I say, I don't disagree with removing the ACOG. I think that's a perfectly balanced idea, given the nature of, you know, what I said. In fact, I don't think Maestro should be able to hold super long angles and completely cut off one line of sight or an area by himself. I think that's an issue with him. I think he should be played in more close quarters, situations. But again, you can't really force him into that style of play, but not change the amount of ammo or the recoil or something on his gun. Then he just becomes far too powerful in that situation. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's basically my thoughts as a fan of competitive Rainbow Six Siege. You know, I'm not a particularly big fan of just sweeping issues under the rug and pretending they don't exist. I'd much rather, you know, address them and fix them as they arise, you know, for, you know, competitive integrity and all that. So anyway, as I say, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like it and subscribe, and leave your comment down below. What do you think they should do about taking ACOGs away from operators like Ash, like Twitch's, because Twitch was a proposed change as well, and Maestro's ALDA? Do you think they should do more to balance his operators, or do you think removing Maestro's ACOG is going to be enough? I'd love to know your thoughts, so I'll see you guys next time.